Okay, AJ, there are several things that I would point out, and I want to start out. I'm just trying to be comprehensive here. The last thing I want to try to do is get into your head and have you try to change things as you're going through the season. This is just stuff that I saw, and I spent a lot of time with this, and I have some comparables with major leaguers that are similar to you afterwards to help illustrate this. But I just wanted as this was the first time I saw you this summer, I just wanted to put out there what I was seeing. I put that mark, that red mark there, so that you can see where the pitch is. That's exactly where you were at impact. So you can see that this is, pretty much a fastball right down the middle, pretty much belt high, right there. So let me get rid of that mark now. A couple of things here. As you load up, look how early your hands start going back. Okay. And I think that's one of the things I would encourage you to work on, getting back a little bit later as you kind of stall out. And we'll see some other major leaguers for an example. But I would say don't start going back with your hands until you start going forward. Again, there's a lot here. It'll all make sense when we're done. The other thing that you'll see I point out in the comparables is, the profound angle of your bat behind your head there. You're not going to see major leaguers like that. As you're behind there, you can see right there, that's a very, very difficult position to pull the bat out of the slot with. If you were on more of a traditional 45-degree angle, as you'll see there with the major leaguers, it's going to be a lot it's going to be a lot easier to pull out. So those are just a couple of things at the beginning, the idea of getting back later with your hands, waiting until your leg goes forward. And also, the angle that we are holding the bat as you're behind your head there, it makes it pretty tough. But the big thing here, and this is what we've been emphasizing this summer, and I really see it with you, what you're doing there is fine, but what we have here is a really pronounced heavy on our front side, right? As you look right in there, you can really see how the weight has transferred onto your front side there. I guess I should go with an arrow right there. So you can see as your stride foot hits, right there is where we have our breakdown because your weight has started to come forward. As you look at the major leaguers that I put you up side by side next, it will be a clearer illustration of how their hips are staying very level and they're just reaching with their front foot and no weight comes down. You're getting kind of that rock up, which, yeah, I have a comparable like Aaron Judge, that's fine to do that, but then when they hit, they don't get that weight to flop forward like you have. Now what happens is you can see as your heel comes down, right there we're set to come around the ball. As your weight comes forward on your stride there, right, you can see everything that's already committed to right there. And again, this was just on underhand flips. It's not like you were fooled on a curveball. And with the weight flopping there, you can even see as the weight flops before we really turn, how the hands have started to come forward. And from right there, it's guaranteed that we're going to be coming around the ball. And as I go through slow, you can see how you've set yourself up to be around as you've gotten your arms ahead. Again, you're going to hang back on your back leg, which is okay, but then we just have to reach forward and get into the ground without weight transferring forward like that. Let me zoom in. And you can see, and you can look at that YouTube video that I posted on Twitter of a whole bunch of major leaguers and how they get into the ground, and you can see how the weight has started to come forward there with you and how the hands start to come down with that flop before you've started to turn. Now, it sets us up to be around, and I like the fact that you're hitting the ball deep, but if you watch your head from impact through extension, how you're coming up, and we talked about, a lot of balls in the round hitting the ceiling or being pulled, and as you get heavy on your front side there, you've set yourself up so that the only thing that you can do is come around the ball. So again, you can see the end result, which is up through extension, and you can see how your backside really gets stuck there. It doesn't keep going through. Your backside just gets stuck, and that'll make sense. I'm going to show you a couple of other major leaguers and how their backside really gets through. You can see how you're really coming up afterwards. But what we need to do, and again, don't be frustrated that I'm hitting a lot of things. You know, you got to look at the 4 months in the winter as November, December, January, February. You know, you can hit 3-4 times a week and try to specifically work on this stuff. And it's going to be a lot easier in person to try to show some different things with your stride. I think some of the major leaguers will show it real well, how they just get going forward. They get a little bit longer than you, and they just get into the ground rather than having that weight flop there, which has our arms come first. We're coming around, and our backside gets stuck as we come up through extension. I'm going to give you some comparables now. For this first comparable, I tried to pick somebody that has a similar approach that you have, and so I picked Aaron Judge, because you can see you're going to kind of hang on your back leg here before you go, and you see Judge doing a very similar thing of how he hangs on his back leg. Okay? Now the difference is, you can see as you go forward, see how the weight comes down so heavy on that front leg. As Judge goes forward, you can see how that front leg just reaches. And you can see the difference between the two of you when your toe hits. So again, very similar. You're both just going to hang. He's going to hang. Now the difference between as you reach and your weight starts to come forward on that toe versus Judge, who has nothing coming forward. The other thing, as I talked about before, if you look at the difference in the angle of your bat, see how the bat is so far behind your head, that it almost inevitably means that we're going to have a longer path to the ball, and you're going to have a greater propensity to come around it. Judge is going to have a lot easier time coming out of the slot. So now, as you land heavy, as we showed before, now we can see the weight almost flop down. And as the weight's flopping down, we're really not turning, and we started to come out of that slot. Judge has nothing move. See the difference there? Now, as you start to turn, you can see from right there, you're going to be around the ball. Whereas Judge, with his hips pulling the bat out of the slot, is going to take a straight path. Let me get back to where he is. You can see how he's still stacked up a lot more, and he's going to have a straight path to the ball where you can see your direction is going to be a little bit around. As you come through, we see how we're going to be around. As Judge comes through, you can see how he's got much more of his hands going straight to the ball, whereas you're coming around. And our end result, as we showed before, is up through extension as our backside gets stuck a little bit, whereas Judge keeps turning and is able to stay down through extension. Here's another comparable to Wilson Contreras. So same thing. You're going to get up and hang back a little bit, and then as we showed, as the toe comes down, the weight comes forward. Contreras, you can see, watch how level he is as he gets going straight forward and into the ground, but he hasn't had any weight shift. So again, here's your load with the weight coming down. Contreras just straight ahead and into the ground with no weight coming forward. You can see the really pronounced difference in the two of your lower halves right there. Then as you get that flopping action there, and again, I'm sorry, before that, look at the pronounced difference in the bat angle of how Contreras has it versus how you have it behind your head there. Again, as we talked about before, it's going to be easier for him to come out of the slot. So now, as we showed before, the weight flops, and you're set to come around. Contreras, who just goes forward and gets into the ground with no weight coming forward, is able to just rotate. You can see how he's still stacked up with his hands, how his hands are coming right out of the slot. As we move forward, there we can really see how we're going to be coming around. And you can see Contreras, how he's able to pull his hands. Look at the difference in the bat position between his and yours, as he's able to pull right through and stay down through extension. Again, you can see how he gets that good back elbow independent movement, and he's able to come straight out of the slot right to it. We get the heavy and flop, and then we come around and up. Talked before a little bit about getting stuck on your backside. As you just watch the backside of Contreras, his back foot, see how he really releases his hip, which allows him to get through, whereas you get stuck and come up a little bit. Okay, finally, here's two without you, and I've been using these. I just got these both this summer. On the right here, we have Christian Yelich. This is from the other day. So you can see it's starting pretty similar to yours, but now watch how he's just going to reach with that front foot and how late he goes back with his hands. And at toe strike, nothing has come forward. So again, watch how late his hands go back. And you can see, just look at his pants, his back leg. You can see all the weight there. It's similar to yours. But look at how his hips stay so level. He's going back late. And no weight's coming forward on that stride. This is some random guy from the Mets. I don't know who it is. But it's a really good swing. Same thing, you can see where he's starting there. Pretty narrow. And see how level his hips stay as he's just going forward. Look how late his hands are going back, forward, and into the ground. You've got toe strike for both guys. And you can see Yelich is closer to you, but you can see how the angle of his bat is nowhere near behind his head. And you can see the Met on the left clearly does not have his bat behind his head. Now, by getting loaded like that, now we can see that first movement with the rotation is not going to be a flop, but a rotation with the lower half. So it's just reaching level and getting into the ground with no weight coming forward on the stride, and now he can immediately rotate. Hips level, getting into the ground, no weight coming forward, and now he can just rotate. And you can see how that's different than the flopping action that you got, is you were kind of up, back, and heavy on your stride, and it allows them to come out straight to the ball. Also, you can see Yelich, this was a pitch that was up and away. He does not have to really get his back foot off the ground. He's not going to release as much because it's away, but you can see how his hip gets through and he stays down. With the Mets guy getting wider, you can really see how that backside releases, which allows him to stay down as he gets through extension.